Now you get the picture. Now, as I said earlier, there's definitely a big scandal going on, and it's got to do with ACORN, and that's, of course, who elected Obama. One of the chief ways he got elected was through the Chicago way, which is fake votes. As you well know, in the old days in Chicago, they gave them a $5 bottle of brandy if they would vote for someone. Now they give out millions of dollars, and the group ACORN spreads it around. And as I said to you, great jokes from little acorns grow. What you're about to hear is a result of James O'Keefe III. He's a filmmaker, and a female partner posing as a pimp and an escort that are trying to get a housing loan through ACORN. And in doing so, they find out ways to keep the money they make off the books and to get some of it put towards the pimp's congressional run. The ACORN worker, Tressa Kelke, describes her years as an escort and also describes killing her husband and how she planned it out. We thank Andrew Breitbart for this story. Listen to clip 6.
I shot him. I shot
self-defense?
Yeah. And then I just picked up the gun and said, you. And I shot him. And he died right there. But before that, I had done laid some groundwork. You know, I went to a domestic violence shelter and I pleaded my case with them. And so everybody in town was knowing that this was happening.
So you hear now there's a double going on here. The woman says she shot her husband, but she laid groundwork before killing her husband. This is an ACORN worker. By first having gone to domestic violence shelters so that everyone in town thought that he was committing violence against her over the years. Keith, the filmmaker, explaining how he's bringing in girls from overseas and explaining it to the ACORN worker. Listen to 7.
We're bringing these girls from overseas, but we are going to take a cut of the profit, and I intend to use the profit from the tricks the girls perform to fund my political campaign and the advertising.
But you see, do you think every congressman, every legislator, do you think that even Obama, our new president, or any of them, ever actually put down every single resource where they got their money? Kennedy, they got their money from bootlegging and prostitution. They got their money from running illegal whiskey. And I ran a service.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Heidi Fleiss is my hero.
So here's an ACORN worker, a former hooker, saying that the Kennedys got their money from bootlegging and prostitution. And then she explains how she ran an escort service and how Heidi Fleiss is her hero. This is the kind of these are the kind of people that ACORN is associated with. They helped elect Obama with fraudulent votes. Listen to the clip 8 now.
I talked to congressmen, senators, assembly people every day. Yeah. Gloria Negretti McLeod. Torres. Let's see, Wilmer Amina Carter is assemblywoman. I am the 62nd district. Baca is right up here in San Bernardino. Barbara Boxer.
So Barbara Boxer, she counts amongst her mentors. And you always thought Barbara Boxer was in it for the poor and downtrodden. You thought smart Barbara from Brooklyn was in it for the poor, huh? You didn't know any better, huh? She's done pretty good, Boxer. Fooling the liberals of Marin County and the people of the state of California. Now, listen to clip 9.
I mean, they pay thousands of dollars more if they're a little violent with these 14-year-old girls.
Again, it's how you want it to be run. Yeah. Don't forget, you can mold this into anything you want. Okay. You can mold it into the level of decency or indecency.
See? So she's an ACORN worker, and she's advising an undercover operative how to beat the law and how to use underage girls as prostitutes. And she counts many politicians as her friend, including Barbara Boxer. So, ladies and gentlemen, I rest my case. We go back again to the old saying about the missionaries who came to Hawaii to do good and did very well indeed. And we bring it up to date to the liberal Democrats, who are the richest people in Congress, who have every day of their life espoused how they're doing good for the people, when in fact their families are doing very well indeed. It's all about the money. It goes all the way back to yesterday's discussion on the Savage Nation of Tammany Hall politics, the 5 points, and the gangs that ran New York. And you say, well, that's the way of the world. It's always been that way. I explained this to someone earlier. She said to me, so you say nothing's really changed, so what's the big deal? And here's the big deal. In other words, the people always knew that the political system ran that way, that it was patronage and that it wasn't what you knew, it was who you knew. Everybody knows that. I'm not shocked by it. I'm not a child. I knew it all the way back into my academic years that some of the biggest morons wound up running departments, not because they were brighter than anybody else in the sciences, but they kissed certain butts along the way and they were put into positions. Going all the way back, we saw that, and it was no shock to me. But what happened now is that now that the country's treasury is empty and that we are actually in the negative and we're bankrupt, the old game is over. The old game of largesse from the treasury is over. The old game of rewarding pimps and prostitutes for votes has to be over. In other words, it all worked when it worked. But now that there's no money, it can't work anymore. The old game is over. And that's why there's double outrage. I'll be right back.
Savage.